carbs are making you fat. Or maybe you've heard, don't eat carbs after a certain time, or carbs are just bad for you. Now, you've probably heard something like that at some point in your life. And really all it does is bring up a whole bunch of questions about, well, what am I supposed to eat? So if you haven't guessed, our topic for today is going to be carbs. And we're continuing on with this series about how to build your own meal plan. This is giving you the step-by-step information that I use to build meal plans for most of my clients. But these are the general rules and pieces of information that you need to be successful. So without too much more talking, let's get into this video. All right, so if you've been following along with the videos, you'll know we're going to start off with talking about what carbs are. You have to define something before you can move on from it. Carbs are the preferred fuel source for the body. And I want to emphasize preferred. The body can use other fuel sources like proteins or fats. Carbohydrates are made up of carbons, oxygen, and hydrogen atoms. And the carbs can be broken up into two different groups, simple and complex. And we'll get into that later. Why do you need to eat them? So let's talk about the function. First and foremost, like I said before, carbohydrates are the preferred energy source for the body. It is a shorter process for carbs to be turned into glucose, while proteins and fats can end up turning into glucose. It has to go through an additional process. So that's why carbs are a preferred energy source. Like proteins, carbs have 4 calories per 1 gram of carbs. So as we've already talked about, calories are just another name for energy for the body. Carbs are also used for energy for the muscles. I'm sure you have been in the gym and you've been told you got to have some carbs either pre or post workout to help refuel the body. Carbs are also important in cellular structure. Carbohydrates are an essential component of the cell structure and cell membrane. So carbs are useful for that as well. Another big function for carbs is fiber is in the form of carbs. Fiber is super helpful for digestion health, also helping to regulate blood sugar and even cholesterol level. Fiber is one of those nutrients that I feel like it's underlooked so often when we're talking about health, but it's so important as, like we just said, lowering blood sugar and even cholesterol levels, amongst other things. All right, so there are 2 types of carbohydrates that you should be aware of. The first one is going to be simple carbs, and those are, just as the name implies, they're just a simple sugar that is easily broken down by the body. These are usually in the forms of fruit or honey or even refined foods. Simple carbs are not good or bad. This is just a description of them. Fruit is not something that's bad for you. Most would argue that fruit is very good for your health. However, things like candy also fall into this category of simple carbohydrates. The next type of carbs that we'll talk about are going to be complex. And you're going to find these complex carbs from things like sweet potato, vegetables, beans, and even whole grains. So again, it being called a complex carb doesn't make it good or bad. But generally, when carbs are eaten in, moderation, there's fewer issues. So next, we're going to talk about where you can find these carbohydrates. For starters, let's talk about fruit. Like we said, fruit is going to generally be considered healthy. Quality sources of fruit that I like to tell people to do is blueberries, for just the amount of nutrition in such a small serving size. I'm a big fan of the berries family. So blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, grapes are in the berry family. On top of that, there are those fruits that a lot of people just enjoy, like mango and pineapple. Fruits are nature's candy, and generally speaking, those should be the ones that you turn to first for filling your carbohydrate needs. Next would also be vegetables. This category goes with fruits. Do not be scared of intaking vegetables for concern of too much carbs. Most vegetables don't have a lot of carbs even attached to it, so eating a lot of that will help you to feel more satiated. Whole grains would be another topic on here. And we're not talking just about your breads or your pastas, but oats and quinoa are also on this list. Having some oats in the morning is a really good way to get your morning started for getting enough carbs. You can get something that's going to keep you full for a long time without spiking your blood sugar, and you can season it and flavor it to taste. So I'm personally a big fan of putting some peanut butter in there or some cinnamon and brown sugar. All right, fourth topic on this list is going to be legumes, because the word legumes is something that we use so commonly. We're talking about things like peas, beans, chickpeas. Now, this is important to remember when we get into the next series where we're talking about actual foods and how to build the meal plan. But remember that there's a lot of foods out there that have multiple macronutrients in it, which might make it beneficial or not so beneficial for you and your specific plan. When should you eat carbohydrates? And that kind of depends on a bunch of things. But I'm going to speak if the world was perfect and you had the most ideal schedule ever, most of your carbs should be centered around your workout. Carbs are a preferred energy source. So it makes sense that even if you are trying to build muscle or lose fat, that you fuel the workout. That way you can get the most out of it. I'm sure you've had a workout where you've gone in there and you felt phenomenal. You were hitting PRs, you felt great, you looked great. Everybody was like, oh my God, you're the best. And then I'm also sure you've had those workouts where you felt like you had to crawl into the gym and you struggled through everything. Your warm-ups felt like PRs. A lot of that is because of the amount of energy you had available. Ideally, you kind of want to have about 40 to 50% of your carbs circling around your workout window. So before, during, and after. I don't think too many people are working out hard enough to need an intra-workout. Now, within carb timing is also, is it bad for you to eat carbs near your bedtime? And the answer to that is no. See, the body doesn't just look at carbs and say, okay, we're only going to use this for energy while this person is awake. Let's remember in the earlier parts of the series, movement and life requires energy. You breathing, your heart beating, you staying alive, your organs functioning, those all use calories. So that means even when your body breaks down carbs and your sleep, it will still be using nutrients as calories. The biggest thing for you to remember is you're going to lose fat over a period of time, not just in 24-hour windows. Maybe you have a schedule that causes your mornings to be so hectic that it's hard to get in all your nutrition in the earlier parts of the day, and you have to backload your meals. That is a thing that happens and happens often. It's okay because you can still eat those carbs at 9 or 10 o'clock at night. Now, the one thing I would advise is it might interrupt your sleep, maybe the digestion process, but if you can handle it, rock with it. Me personally, I eat probably an hour to an hour and a half before I go to sleep, and the food generally doesn't have a problem for me. If you are one of those individuals that works out early in the morning, remember that the excess glucose in the body is stored as glycogen in the body, in the muscles. If you are doing some kind of performance-based activity in the mornings, you probably want to have something to eat then. But for general population, get your carbs when you can. Don't go over what you need, and then just, live life. All right, a little section here for carbs and blood sugar. So like I mentioned, carbs are a preferred energy source. When you consume them, they break down into glucose. That is your blood sugar. Now, if you've heard anything, I'm sure blood sugar monitors and those things, you may have heard that phrase before, and that's for a population of people called diabetics. These are individuals that have some kind of issue managing their blood sugar levels automatically because of maybe insulin production or lack of. For individuals with type 1 or type 2 diabetes, my advice for you is to continue using your monitor. Work out and work out hard, but still be very aware of your blood sugar levels. Just because you are eating fruit doesn't mean that it will not impact your blood sugar level, but it's going to be something that's easier to manage with consuming enough fiber. Because fiber is so satiating, it's really good also for weight management, because if you feel full, you're going to be less likely to eat. So eating a little bit extra fruits and vegetables are going to help that process. And yes, you can still have some carbs, especially if they're high in fiber. Again, this is where oats and sweet potatoes are really, really beneficial because they are so high in fiber, but they're also still relatively low in their carb levels. Also, the recommendation for men and women to daily fiber intake is 25 and 38 grams of fiber, respectively. And I will be absolutely honest with you, this is one of those sections that I monitor for my clients to make sure that we're getting to that number. I notice the closer I get them to their fiber, their daily fiber intake, the less complaints about hunger that they have. And if they're not hungry, well, there's a better chance of compliance and adherence to the plan, which makes the results easier to get. Fiber impacts the health in such a powerful way. It also helps to manage blood sugar levels. One way that is helping to manage blood sugar levels is it'll keep those spikes and those valleys from being so sharp and so steep. Getting fiber with your carb sources kind of gives you a more mellow, gradual incline and decline because of its density to it. I'm curious, how much fiber are you all eating per day? Question of the day, how much fiber does the average American eat? I'll give you the answer at the end of, we'll see who gets the right one, and don't cheat. All right, so to recap, carbohydrates are neither good nor bad for you. They're the body's preferred energy source, which kind of makes them a good thing to have. But obviously, when you consume too much of them, well, now you've got a problem. It sounds like everything else in life. It's all about balance, kind of like everything else in life. There are also 4 calories per 1 gram of carbs. Carbs also come in different types, simple and complex. Fruit and vegetables are amazing carbohydrates that you should build your plan based around. I'm not telling you go plant-based, but having fruits and vegetables as the foundation is a great thing. Why? Because fiber, that's why. Fiber is going to help you stay healthy. It's going to help manage your blood sugar. It's going to help to prevent diabetes. It's going to help prevent overeating. All right, so quick story, true story, 100% true. And this is how I understand the value of carbs as an energy source. For those of you who know me, you know that I was in the Army and I was in Special Forces as Green Beret. And I remember right when I got to my first team, I had also simultaneously decided, hey, I'm going to do my first bodybuilding show. Not smart. Nobody around me cared about me because they should have told me that was a stupid idea. Because again, I'm going through some additional training. We're shooting every day. It was so taxing. I get to my team probably about a week and a half to 2 weeks before my show. The new guy shows up to the team and you got to be ready to work. And so part of the team had come back. So I'm getting introduced to people and some of them already knew me. Now, also, if you know anything about bodybuilding, the week before your show is called peak week. And generally you go through this carb depletion process. That was the roughest stretch of time ever for me. And my peak week, I was only low carb for 4 or 5 days. Talk about brain fog. It was so bad that I put in leave. So I put in a request for time off from Thursday through, I believe it was Wednesday of the following week, give myself some time to rest and get to the show and everything. Here we are on Wednesday before my leave starts. I was so brain fogged. I was so out of it that they sent me home and called me useless. I'm not sure if I was saying actual words, but I'd been so low carb that, it made sense. And I think at this point, I've been having 50 grams of carbs per day. So me and my body, we love carbs around here. So me getting to 50 grams of carbs per day was absolutely rough. I just want to say thank you for making it through this video. But first, I need to ask you a favor. Can you help me out by subscribing to the channel? We're a small channel, but we are trying to grow. We're trying to do the right thing and put out quality information, realistic information for everybody to get healthier, get better looking, get the results you want and faster. Help the channel out by subscribing and leaving a comment down below. Let me know what you got out of the video and answering the question of the day. Stay tuned for the next video where we finally start looking at putting the numbers together and actually building the plan. You'll see my thought process for for my decision making for what foods to eat and how it all looks. You are going to want to see that one. This will make your planning and meal prepping so much easier. All right, this is Coach Chris. We are